So, I'm going to teach you how to do cloth collision in Dreams. As you can see here on my character, I've got some okay cloth collision working. I'm still working on making it better, but as you can see, for the most part, this cloth is bumping into various parts of the character and not just clipping through it. It's not perfect, but it's getting the job done so far, and I'm working on making it even better. So to get this working, it's actually pretty simple. Let's take a look at the character first. And we're gonna not preview invisibility, so you can kind of see what's going on here. So I've got these red sculpts here that are actually not grouped with the puppet. And each of them has a teleporter on it. And these teleporters are snapping themselves onto the puppet at different points. Now the reason that you do this is because if you have something on the puppet that moves and is collidable, it will just bump into the puppet itself and mess with its momentum. But if you have something that is not grouped with the puppet for it to bump into, it'll just bump into that instead. So, when we start time, it all just kind of snaps on like Iron Man armor or something. And that is accomplished using tags. So you can see I've got these tags on the character at various points. And that's pretty much it, honestly. But let's go ahead and do this from scratch. So here we are in my little cloth testing playground. And as you can see here, I've got a puppet where I first kind of tested this out with the shoulder cloth and also with some hair. So you can see that the hair is not colliding with the puppet at all. Or I mean, it is not clipping through the puppet at all. It is colliding with the puppet, because that is what's supposed to happen. But let's do this from scratch. Okay, so first, obviously, we're going to need a puppet. There we go. Okay, so got the puppet here. And the first thing we're going to need to do is create some collision objects for him. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and tag a couple of parts. Let's just do a cape, because then I don't have to do as many. So, first we are going to grab some tags. Oops. So let's tag the torso and the lower body. Well, actually we could probably do it all with one. Now I'll do like the junk, and then let's do the legs too, so that we can do a nice long cape. Alright, now as you might expect, these need to be named. So just go ahead and do that. Oops. Whoops. Alright. Okay, so we got our puppet tagged, ready to go. Next, let's make some collision objects. Now, there's different ways you can do this. The first thing I tried, which you'll see here if I turn off invisibility, is with this puppet, I basically was cloning different pieces of him and then ungrouping them from the puppet and using those. And that didn't seem to work great. It worked better overall with Dreams' physics when I was using very big, chunky, simple sculpts, like cylinders, for example. Or, as you saw on my other character, big half cylinders. So let's go with that. Let's turn the grid on. And let's make a cylinder. Let's cut it in half, give it a little bit of a hole. Want to still make it pretty chunky. That definitely helps. All right, that's good. We can shrink that down a bit. Now to save on thermo, what I would recommend doing is live cloning this so that you are just using the same sculpt over and over again, and if you need to make adjustments, it will affect all of them. So let's, actually before we do that, let's pop a teleporter onto this guy. All right. And make sure with your teleporters to match target orientation. And we'll start with the torso. Got lots of tags on here from other stuff. Torso. All right. So right there we got a problem because it's collidable with the puppet itself. So first thing you want to do is make sure the puppet is just a friend, or whatever else you want to call it, and make sure that the puppet does not collide with a label of your choosing. So let's go with machine. That's what I've been using. Now let's go to our sculpt here. Make sure that it is collidable. I tend to lower the friction but raise the density, and make sure that the physics cost is high. And then we'll make sure that the only thing it collides with is machine. Could be whatever tag you want, that's just what I've been using. And also make sure that it itself is machine. So stick that on there, and as you can see now it's stuck to the puppet, but the puppet is not getting pushed around. As far as the orientation goes, we need to make some adjustments. So let's look at the teleporter. So probably just, oops. Let me just do, will that do it? No, that's the opposite. That do it? No. All right. Let's just do it the other way. So we'll just adjust the tag itself. All right, that should be fine. There we go. All right, so now let's go into tools and make sure that we're doing clone, live clone. And let's make a few more of these. One for the booty, one for the thigh, other thigh. All right. Now, as you might expect, we just need to make sure that these point to the correct tags. And if you're not aware, I am using up and down the D-pad to cycle through them this way. Did I not? Right chin, where are you? Oh, that's right, I must have, yeah, I typed that weird. That's fine. Should work now though. Yep, there we go. So we got all our pieces in place. Looks like we need to make some adjustments to the tags. I'm doing this pretty quick. You're going to want to spend some time making sure that you get this just right. and make sure that it is functioning the way you want it to and how you would want things to bump into things. I'm just making some quick adjustments here. So the easiest way to edit a tag is to select it and grab its little white ball and then make your adjustments. I try not to mess with the teleporters too much unless it's something simple like the teleporter is just facing the incorrect direction. It's much easier just to edit the tags. And sometimes you run into a situation like this. If that happens, turn on XRay so you can get to things more easily. So as you can see with this puppet over here, he's got these sculpts on him that aren't messing with his momentum or anything. Looks like we got one that we still need to fix on the booty. Yeah, that'll do. All right, and actually, if we're gonna do a cape, we might want, might want this torso one a little lower. That should be fine. Okay, so we've got our collision armor built. Now, let's make a crappy cape real quick. So let's do a sculpt. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Will that work? Nah, let's do. All right, let's make this cape. So, let's do some kind of flatter sculpts. Not worried too much about this being perfect, but let's at least try and center it on the puppet. That looks pretty good. Scoot it out just a little bit. Now, make sure that this sculpt is tagged accordingly so that it will only collide with the tag you've chosen and that it's self-labeled as the tag you've chosen. Take the friction down, take the density down, put the physics cost up. And you may need to play with these settings to make sure that it's behaving the way you want it to, but that's generally where I start. You're also going to want to make these invisible because you're not actually going to see these sculpts, you're going to see the paint that is connected to them. So let's make a couple copies of this. Make a nice long cape. Yeah, all the way to the bottom. Okay. Now, you're going to want to connect these to the puppet, of course. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make our grid a little less fine. So this first one, let's go with that. Yeah, that'll be good. And then, let's see. Next, you just want to do pretty much exactly what you would expect. Just connect these together. And as you go, so if you readjust the grid to the sculpt that you're going to next, or that you're starting from, it tends to help you make the connectors as even as possible. And another little trick, if you want to select all the connectors in something, double tap the sculpt that is the parent. And then when you tweak one of the connectors, it's going to tweak all of them. So let's turn on lock rotation. that will keep paint that is rigged along these from twisting around. Give it a little bit of tightness. Maybe a little bit of springiness so that it'll kind of fall back into place. Let's just see what happens when I start time. Alright, so we got something going on here. I'm gonna go ahead and guess it's because I have lock rotation turned on. This top one. And it's probably also because I did springiness. Springiness is tricky, and often I just don't use it because it tends to really throw things off. There we go, look at that. So as you can see, those sculpts are colliding with the sculpts that are attached to the puppet. Now, looks like our booty sculpt needs some help. So let's fix that. Grab that booty. Adjust our grid. Oops. That's a little better. Okay. Do we have any other weird ones? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like left thigh here is not quite right. There, that's a little better. Next, so just to see how this is working, let's actually make these sculpts visible again. And take this for a little test drive. So, as you can see, this cape is colliding with the sculpts that we've set. Looks like we do need to do a little bit of work because it's got a little bit too much freedom of movement from the top there, and it's wrapping all the way around. But from here, it's really just finessing and making sure that it behaves the way you want it to. You know, you might want to wrap it around a little bit because that's pretty cool, right? It really just depends on how you want the cloth to behave. So from here, it's just playing around, messing with the shape of your collision sculpts, and just making sure that the cloth behaves the way you want it to. Well, let's go ahead and rig up some cloth to this real quick so you can see the full effect. Make these guys invisible again. And let's do some quick paint. Make a nice shiny red cape. How about that? Let's grab Rule Flex. All the way to the bottom. Now let's duplicate this sculpt, or this stroke. Alright, now for our painting itself. Let's set it to physical, attach to both ends, get rid of that floppiness. And then we are going to attach its end to the bottom sculpt. Look at that. It's a cape. It's bumping into the puppet. So obviously you're going to need to do some work to make this work exactly the way you want it to. Actually, just to really see the full effect, let's make your collision sculpts invisible too, because you're definitely going to want to do that. It'll definitely take some finessing, messing around with your paint settings, making sure that when it bends around, it's not clipping through the puppet. It takes work, I'm not going to lie. This is not like a simple plug-and-play process. But with a little bit of work, you can have a nice colliding cape. instead of one that just looks like a flowy mess that is attached to the back of your puppet and immediately clips through it the moment you walk backwards. So even just messing around with the flex settings, you can give it a lot more weight and length, give it some substance. Now I'm just kind of playing around with this. And one thing that can also help too is if you take the original painting and group it with the top sculpt, like that. But just make sure that you set the group to visible and go into the sculpt and set that to invisible. That way, when you are messing around with the sculpt, you can kind of get in there closer, do that. How does that work? Oh, what did I do? Oh, I know what I did. So, want to make sure that this group you've created is movable. But the sculpt is not. Connectors get a little weird with groups, but yeah, there you go. So really from here, you know, you might like adjust the length of this, maybe like adjust the starting point so it's a little lower. And then you can add a sculpt around the shoulders for, you know, like the part of the cape that's wrapped around the character's shoulders and neck. And that's basically it. Just keep playing around with it, and you've got a nice cape that bumps into your puppet, has some weight. You can, of course, make that chain of sculpts as complicated as you want. Maybe mess around with, oh man, this is just not the best showcase of this concept, as you can see. But honestly, no matter what you do, it's going to take work. It's going to, I mean, like, even, you know, Unreal 4 with cloth is hard. But as you can see, in Dreams, it's possible. Just got to play around with it. And just jumping back to my character, you can see that with some work, you can get a nice, convincing effect. So in this character, you can see the lower parts of the trench coat and the cloth around the shoulders are all rigged up this way, and also the hair. Now, it's not perfect. Still got a few clipping issues here and there to work out. I'm probably just going to redo that shoulder cloth entirely. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this helps you make characters with cool capes, trench coats, and crazy hair. Thanks for watching.